All right. So the last paper number 3 here, due December 10th. Let's go through the instructions. Actually, it looks like we have some different information here at the beginning. So with paper 3, you have the option of submitting this in a slightly different format than a Word document. So you can, and we'll see with the instructions, it's kind of set up a little bit differently. I'm asking you to imagine, what you would say to a politician who's responsible for crime prevention programs, initiatives, funding. And so you can imagine doing a presentation. So if you want, you can do this as a PowerPoint presentation or Google Slides, whatever your preference is. And or you can just do it old-fashioned way, a Word document, PDF, whatever there. So you can choose that option. There's no extra marks. If you do PowerPoint, there's no marks for formatting or creativity and everything like that. It's just an option in case you're just tired of writing papers, just something a little bit different. The same expectations will be in place. So the format, whatever you choose to do, you'll upload Word document, PDF document, PowerPoint. You can upload a PowerPoint document. I'm going to ask, if you do PowerPoint, upload the actual PowerPoint. Do not PDF it. And that is just in case you do speaker notes. I won't be able to see the speaker notes if you PDF a PowerPoint. For some reason, it removes them. And so upload the PowerPoint. If you do Google Slides, you use that. You can send me a shareable link for the slides. And just let's take a quick look at that. I want to make sure you can do that. I'm just going to go to my Google Doc here. And let's just pick actually one of my sets of slides that I've used in this class here. So if you've done a Google Doc and you need to send me the link, and you want to send me the link, you know that you do not, take the URL at the top there. You have to go to File. You have to go share with others. And then you'll need to copy a link. And let's see. Oh, no, sorry. You're going to have to not copy a link yet. You'll have to do anyone with the link. It's been a while since I've shared a document there. So anyone with the link, you can keep it on viewer. I don't need editing option there. And now you copy the link, and then you paste that link you can put it into the submission box, put it in a Word document, upload the Word document, just give me the link somehow and some way there. All right, so that's a little bit different information. There is one other piece of new information here. And so it has been the case for the other papers. I've accepted late papers up until 2 weeks after the original due date. We can't do that this time. So because I need to get things marked and grades submitted by a certain date, and that would push me too far to the limit there. So I will accept late papers up until December 16th. So the end of the day on December 16th in that case. So now, of course, as always, if there is exceptional circumstances, please reach out and we'll discuss that. But for the most part, late papers only up until December 16th. So you really only have about 6 days there after the original due date. Same 24-hour extension is in place. Use it again, use it for the first time. Don't need to have a reason. That is there. All right, so let's go straight into the instructions. And yeah, so we're here, and so it is a lot shorter. The instructions are a lot shorter than paper 2 that we just got through here, and it's really kind of a different format, slightly. As I said, paper 3 is, if you want to imagine, you're going to give a 15-minute talk to some politician, and you're going to tell them, now that you've learned a lot of things about crime and theories of crime and data on crime, how should we be dealing with crime in Canada, and presumably in a better way so we have less crime. So you're basically, you're going to have 4 different parts to your presentation. And the first part is basically, I want you to actually pick an actual person and who you're going to present to, and why you picked them. And so I have given you, so you don't have to try and figure out, well, who are the people. I have given you the list of relevant politicians here. So you can choose a federal politician. So the current person in charge of the Ministry of Justice, the Department of Justice, is Sean Fraser, the Honorable Sean Fraser. And so I've just linked out. You don't have to read this. I would maybe, take a look at it, but you don't have to address any of the information they have in their bio here, but it just gives you a sense of who they are and hopefully why they are head of the Department of Justice and Attorney General, therefore responsible for all things crime related at the federal level. Provincially, we have the minister responsible for justice is Minister Mickey Amory. And again, here's a little bit of his information here. A very little bit of information there. Again, you don't have to address any of this in your response. I have also, arguably, given some of the things I learned this year about how influential members of parliament or even ministers of legislative assembly are, this might be moot, but if they still are, if they're elected to office to represent you in your riding, they should hear what you think about crime. You're not sending this letter to them or this presentation to them, but again, it's just to have you have something in mind, a person in mind. So you could do a federal member of parliament, and because you all probably live in different places and jurisdictions, I've just linked you to the main page for the federal minister. So it looks like you can search by your postal code, and it'll hopefully tell you who is responsible. Let's just put in, trying to think what 5H. I'm going to put in RDP's postal code. Yeah, that seems about right. Yeah, so Burton Bailey's one of the Red Deer MPs there. And then I've done the same thing for provincial, the MLA for the province. Same thing. You can search by your postal code here. I was going to joke, there are several members of the Legislative Assembly who are up for recall, and it would be interesting. Oh, I didn't give you. What the heck? Oh well. Anyways, there is an MP for Red Deer Politic. I'm forgetting which one it is specifically. All right. So where are we going here? Okay. Okay, so you pick an individual and you just tell me why you picked that person. No wrong answer there, just kind of what it was about, what you saw, what you read that you kind of think that they would be the one you should be presenting to. Then your introduction. And I have given just a little for each section here, giving you the marks that will be attributed to that. So this introduction, who you're presenting to and why, very little, minimal marks. maximum. This one is the only section that has a maximum, so just maximum 50 words for that. So just keep that short. Introduction is going to be this, and I forgot minimum here, and I realized I did that a couple of times here. Minimum 350 words here for your introduction. And this is just an overall introduction, as it says here, to catch the attention of the person you're presenting to. And this also is a lot of you in terms of kind of your position on this and why you think this is an important issue, why you think you know now what's best, for Canada for dealing with crime, and yeah, make it catchy. You don't have to refer to any course material for Part B here. You don't have to cite anything. This is, as I said, it's an introduction. Make it impactful, make it interesting, make it, heartfelt, make it authoritative, make it a good introduction, catch their attention so they're going to keep listening to you and will do what you say after the presentation. The most of the marks and really the kind of the big content of this paper is Part C, the responses to crime. So with this one, you are going to be think of it as kind of a 2-part plan, or you're kind of going to advocate for 2 specific kind of ways to deal with crime. Each of those 2 ways, each of those 2 responses, each of those 2, steps, each has to have a theory to sort of back it up, and it has to have a different theory for each of those particular parts. The 2 parts don't really have to connect to one another. They don't have to relate to one another. They don't have to, you can do this kind of in 2 parts. Part C, you can go, okay, here's my first part. I think we should, do this. I'm trying to think of a silly answer here. I think we should, oh my goodness, I can't even think of any silly. It's too late in the day. I think we should implement all children once they start into grade school. We should implement them with like ID chips and ID tags so that we can track them. And if they start to become at risk of crime, they'll be identifiable by this bio implant chip. Really stupid response, and you're not going to find any support for that. But anyways, that's your pitch, implementing kids, early with these bio implant chips so we can track their behavior and deal with them if they get out of hand. So you're going to have that response, and then you're going to have to provide support from one of the theories we've covered in the course for that support. So how does that, and I want you to tell me how that response, that initiative, this plan that you have is supported by the concepts and the ideas in one of the theories. So this is important. So you're going to have 2 kind of responses, 2 things that you're going to talk about here, 2 different theories, and each theory has to come from a different perspective. So we'll just scroll down here to important note number 2. So I've got the theories that we've looked at here. So you can do a column A, which are the structural theories. And then for your second theory and second response match, you have to choose a B or a C or a D theory there. So I'm just trying to broaden out your focus here and also show you how these theories kind of work really well together, even though you don't have to identify how they connect to one another. But it's just because the theories in each of the perspectives or columns here, they just share too many of the same concepts and ways that they look at crime. I want you to have as broad and a more effectual sort of response here. All right, so for part C, you're going to kind of do this in 2 parts. You're going to say, here's my plan, and this is how I think we should deal with crime. We should implement biochips into kids for tracking purposes. It's supported by this theory. Actually, that potentially could be supported by the positivist theory that we looked at way, way, way long ago. So I would tell, then I want you to explain how positivist theory really supports this plan. Then I want you to choose research support from one of the assigned readings that we've done. And so this is one of the course readings that we've done. So let's go back to the course here. And I'll go to just the first structural theories here. And so you've had a couple of different types of course resources. We've had the lecture videos. We've had some, usually, all the time we've had some readings from the online textbook. So that's, in this case, that was the two Ashley readings here. And then for the structural theories, you see there's these three articles. So these are the research-based articles. These are all, as I explained to you, researchers have, studied some aspect of crime using one theory, and the theory that we've been looking at. And I have now identified these. These initially weren't identified, but I have now identified each of the articles, what theory they go with. So if you're using, say, the middle class measuring rod theory for your part C response there, then you'll have to see if you can find some further information from, this Kelly and Balch article to support your response there. So this is I'm including this step in there because, it's trying to approximate, evidence-based decision making. You're trying to show support for the strength of this type of strategy that is supported by not just theory, but also actual research that shows, that this is a good theory and it works in a particular case. Now, I will note, I will go back here. So, for example, say you were doing strain theory. So this was the Parnaby and Sacco, Fame and Strain is your research article. Now, when you're talking about your response to crime, it may have nothing to do with fame and committing crime to try and achieve goals of fame. And that's okay. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to sort of, you can stretch the theory and you can try and stretch what they say in this article to try and also apply to what you're talking about. Okay. I'm trying to think. I can't remember the particular crimes in that one here. I guess, similarly here, like if you're doing bond theory, and this article, the research article is on binge drinking and some other crimes related to binge drinking among college students. But you may have chosen to focus on say, maybe drug-related crimes or, instrumental crimes like theft and shoplifting in your focus, in your paper. That's okay. You can still make this fit because this is sort of giving you a sense of how these theories are good theories. And so you're trying to make sort of that parallel comparison between the types of crime by using the same theory there. Okay, so I just wanted to make that, and you'll likely find, that they're not talking about the same types of crime that you're talking about, and that's okay. I'm just wanting you to sort of dip into those readings to see what sort of additional support and backup you can generate for your argument and your pitch here, because you're trying to, convince them this is what we need to do. So also what you're going to do, so you've got your strategy, you've got your support from a theory, you've got your support from a research article, and you can do any of this in any order here, but I also want you to specifically address a type of crime or criminal that this response really is going toward. So and you can even start this in the introduction portion here, it will be easier to do this assignment if you kind of focus on a specific type of crime or a specific group of criminals, and that will help to, because there's a lot of crime out there and a lot of criminals, and we can't solve everything with just 2 programs or 2 responses. So you want to keep it really, really, really narrow there. So, for example, as I said, you could look at, gender-based violent crime. You can look at hate-motivated crime. You can look at kind of what we call poverty-related crime, like theft and shoplifting, or those sorts of things. Or you can look at, young offenders, or you can look at maybe even female criminals or indigenous offenders. So you can focus it in much more, much more narrow, which then allows for, hopefully is easier to then match to theories and to research. So I want you to include just a brief little example of a specific type of crime or criminal that this response, will be best, served to work with, and an example that fits good with this particular theory. In that case, and that can be a real example or a fictional example. Okay, so it can be something from the news. So say, news stories about, increasing shoplifting in times of economic recession. Or it can be a fictional example. You can make it up, or it can be from, and I had a meeting with someone today actually talking about their paper 3, and they were using actually an example of a character from a movie. And so, and that works. So what I'm looking for here is just, where do you see these theories in action? And so just tying it to an example there. And then lastly, for each response, you're also going to bring in an actual program, strategy, or initiative that, illustrates that theory and would be a good fit for, responding to the type of crime and criminal that you've identified there. And this is going back to this link. I've encouraged you to go to this page several times throughout the course, and we'll actually but we'll go to this and work on this in tutorial this week. And so, searching through the different programs here to find, the theory that you've used, would they support and use any of these programs or initiatives here. Now, so there's a whole list here. I'll just kind of go through this again quickly here. It's kind of roughly organized. Really, you're kind of just using the first half of it here for this class. I use this page for another class as well. We've got some Red Deer in Alberta initiatives and that sort of thing here. Social movements, activism, this can apply. It does apply to some of the cases. Then there's just broadly a wide range of just Canadian, other, provincial information. And then I'll just lastly show you this last one. So you can probably stop here. Then there's this crime prevention inventory. So this is through Public Safety Canada, which is kind of connected to that Department of Justice at the federal level. So that's Sean Fraser, whatever his name was. He's head of this area here. And it's just an inventory of federally funded, actually specifically programs funded under the National Crime Prevention Strategy. So kind of fits well with this assignment here, because you're advocating for some better crime prevention. So there actually might be programs out there that that you're kind of describing and that connect to the theories that you've chosen there. So it's a big database. So it really is just a literal database of different programs. And but you can search through it and use some key terms to search through, search through this here. I'm trying to think of an example. Probably it would be best to use some key terms from the theory that you can maybe find, or just given your description of how your initiative, your response is meant to deal with crime, you can put this in here. So for example, let's do, you might be addressing kind of the problem of gangs and gang behavior. So just writing in gangs, there's, 71 records there. And so you'll need to go through go through some of them to see if it actually is kind of what you're looking, and it fits with the theory that you're looking at here. So I'm just going to just randomly click on one here. It gives you a description of the program. You may be able to, so it actually gives a fair amount of detail. And it is some of this detail, though, that I do want to see in your response. And actually, it looks like they also give links out in some cases to websites here. Oh, yeah. You could probably also search for it. If you just Googled it, you could probably see if you can find some additional information if you needed to. But what I want to see, now I got to try and find the instructions again. What I want to see here is, I want you to tell me what that program initiative is, but I also want you to tell me and be really specific what it is about that program, or that initiative or that response that you are seeing, support from the theory. So, what sort of concepts play out. So you are going to need to pull some specific information from the description that that you see there, and that's for any of these as well. That there will be information on these different links here. Usually probably, kind of, this is the Youth Justice Committee. They'll explain so you'll have to read through some of this information and try and see and pull and directly quote in your paper, where you're seeing that connection between the theory and aspects and elements of that program. Okay, so you're going to do that twice over. So, one sort of focus of a response, how it's supported by theory, research support, example, and a program strategy. For the all of part C, you're doing 2 responses there. I have this set at minimum 500 words, and that's in total. So roughly, 250 words per response, theory, and so forth. Okay. And that's minimum. You can definitely do more. But I am setting the minimum there at 500 words. Then the last part is expert support. So this again is just trying to build up, the validity and the appropriateness of your of what you're laying out here by saying here's some experts. They say this, they would support this as well, and they know what they're talking about because again they're experts. So I want you to draw on the work of at least 2 of the authors for topic 9, and describe, based on the readings there, what they would have to say in support of your presentation and the responses that you laid out there. So let's just quickly go to part 9, topic 9. So, and as we saw there, so you're using 2 of, either O'Grady, Waller 1, or Mugari, or Waller 2. And I know that's a little confusing. I'm sorry. And so, but I have labeled them here as such there. So O'Grady, it's just actually a very short reading, PDF reading there. Waller 1 is an online textbook, and it's just a section, and specifically I'm just directing you to the subsections that have these titles here. You will link through to, it goes right there. Okay. Oh, I linked the PDF. Sorry. Apology. I had previously, it was an online ebook. So I made this easier. So reading, and I didn't read it. So read the following sections starting on page 12. So yeah, once you get to the PDF, scroll down to page 12. We're at 7. I just want to make sure this is it because I've messed things up before. Yeah. So we're on page 12 here, and that's that first section, The Science of Why Young Men Grow Up to Be Offenders. So you can start reading there and you can pull some information from that. The other, so this one is an ebook, and it is a permalink. So hopefully this also links out properly. You might have to, oh, no, I was going to say you might have to log in, but it doesn't look like you have to. So hopefully this is the right link, Crime Prevention Through Social Development 201. Yeah, so this has worked well as well. So reading really just 201, 202, and just a tiny bit there. So that is the Mugari reading, and then Waller 2. So you can, so again, you're using only 2 of these. However, you can't use Mugari and Waller 2 because basically they're very similar to each other, just very different, just different readings there too. So this one is actually quite, not old. Oh yeah, that's old, 1986. Anyways, but it is short. It's just a short little description of said there. All right, so what are we doing with that again? I've lost our instructions. There we go. Yeah, so you're just pulling some information. So imagine, you can take what they've said in the readings and, how would they sort of say, yeah, you've got a really great idea here because I said this and what you're saying really ties to what I said. So that's how you're kind of working those into your presentation there. So that is it. And this last section, part D, is minimum 200 words. And that's a minimum. I forgot the minimum there. This paper is also going to have the same marks for referencing. So making sure you have in-text citations. Now, if you're doing PowerPoint slides and if you do want to try and kind of make it feel like a presentation, you don't necessarily have to have in-text citations, but bottom of the slide or having citations on the slide where the information is. At least close to the citations there. Mechanics mark, use of course resources, and been giving that mark as well. Now on that point, usually I would tell you go take a look at the rubric, because that tells you how much of the resources you have to use. So I haven't yet. I will I'll re-upload the instructions here because what is here right now, as you're seeing here, is wrong. This was the information for paper 1. I forgot to correct it. But what I have done is if you go into Blackboard and here's the paper 3, the instructions are there. I have revised it here. So for use of course resources for part C, I'm asking that you use it for full marks, 2 or more course resources to support your response. And that's sort of that. So much less sort of use of course resources. So online textbook, those research articles, lecture material, your choice for that. For part D, this will be hopefully really easy to do because you're being directed to use 2 course resources for that part D there. So that almost maybe shouldn't even be there, but all right, I think that is it, but let me go back to the instructions to see if I missed anything. I did. There's a booster mark opportunity. So for part 3 there, you can do a third response and a different theory and a third theory for an additional maximum 8 additional marks for that. And again, if you haven't done booster marks before, let me double check that they're here. I do have a little video here in Blackboard that explains how the booster mark situation works. And I spelled explanation wrong in that video title. Oops. All right. As always, any questions about the instructions, need some clarification, would like me to take a look at, portions of, or even just brainstorming notes, happy to do that. Happy to help you out. And yeah, I'm actually looking forward, to what you're able to put together for this one. Hopefully you can have a little bit of fun with it. I know it's still an assignment, still for marks, and it's one of probably 1,000 other things you're doing right now. But yeah, try to have some fun with it if you like. So, all right.